Well, better late than never, they say, except when it comes to pregnancy tests and live streams. But here we are. Hey, thanks for finding Wicked Radio live on the open sea. Now, this doesn't matter at all if you're an audio listener. It means nothing to you. But to my right, your left, if you're watching on some kind of stream on one of the platforms, is the Atlantic Ocean. I'm on a cruise ship. You can't really see that. I couldn't figure out the lighting. Tomorrow will be much better. And I promise you tomorrow I'll actually be here on time because the internet connection was a little spotty. Let me put it that way. All right, enough of that. This is a little bit weird one today. I still wanted to hop on here and talk about The Conversation. You know which one I'm talking about. And no, I don't want to dig up the details about Charlie Kirk again and the horrific nature of it and the monsters that were celebrating it. I think we're beyond that, mostly. Because I got to tell you, and this is why it's just a little bit different. I'm just going to talk about my personal past couple of days. Because travel being what it is, the nature of travel, you run into a lot of people. And unless you're somebody that doesn't like to talk to anybody, you're going to hear the national conversation a lot. This is why, like traveling salesmen, pilots, anybody that does a lot of conventions, they're really smart and they understand exactly what's going on, like the tone of the country, as they say. Or if you're just traveling, like getting to a cruise ship. Now, the nature of being a traveler on some kind of a vacation, you'll run into people who are not usually that hip to the news talking about it. Now, if you're on here and you're following me, and there's more of you these days, thank you so much, appreciate that. You're very attuned to the news. You're very up on things, what's going on. You probably formed your own opinions. That's you. And me. I got to tell you, and this is important and I think relevant to the story, we're not most people. Now, most people, let's call them normal people, and I think we can use that word again because it's the best description. Well, how do you define normal? You know what I mean. Normal, everyday, hardworking American people, no matter where they stand, because this isn't a left-right thing anymore. It doesn't matter. Democrat, Republican, red, blue, I'm sick of that. We're all sick of that. Most normal people are working their jobs, trying to raise their kids, maybe trying to graduate college, just trying to get through life, okay? You and I, not so much normal. We're a little bit tuned into the news more than the normal people. Here's what's changed. The conversation has started, and I couldn't figure out what to call this live stream today, but you got to write down something. And I said, people are ready to talk, start the conversation. I should have written this. People want to talk. So jump into the conversation because you, chances are, know a lot more about the news and what's going on here, what the real deal is, because you're so tuned into the news than most other people. Here's what I mean by people want to talk. Now, personal journey, leaving Florida, getting on a plane, going to New York City, that's where we left the cruise out of and wanted to, hang out with my daughter for a couple of days too. So everything involved with New York City and every place you go where people want to talk all the time, cafes and restaurants and hotels and apartment buildings and stores, right? Then you actually get onto a cruise ship where there is a sampling of the entire world, not just the country, people from all over the world, right? And then you get into different ports and different cities and different things and casual conversations and areas. Let me tell you something, just because it's a unique experience. People not only are ready, they want to talk about maybe not the Charlie Kirk gory details. They want to talk about the aftermath. And let me tell you what's going on with this thing. People are horrified by the reaction from most other people. Remember we talked about this on Thursday and Friday, where the extreme reaction, thousands of people have a count of this now. There are thousands of people getting fired from their jobs. The most recent viral video of this was that Office Depot in Michigan, where they refused to print out flyers for a vigil for Charlie Kirk. Office Depot jumped up and they fired those two people as well. I mean, that's happening a lot because those are the extreme people. Believe me, they're in the minority. That's not most people having a visceral hatred reaction to Charlie Kirk and all the people writing terrible things and all that other stuff. That's the extreme minority. So is, and I need to tell you this, the people that want this to be, we're never talking to these people again. That's it. It's over. It's all over. Now, I even posted, and I think I said this on one of the live streams, one of the podcasts on Thursday and Friday. It's like, I don't ever deal with those people. Now that's true. I actually did say that, and I believe that. Now, if you have somebody in your organization or your company that was celebrating and cheering, what happened to Charlie Kirk or any violent act, I'm holding to that. You got to get away from those people. I don't know if you want them in your organization, but that's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about normal, everyday people that you've run into and have probably run into that are aware of this story. That's how massive this story is. And they want to. It's not just being ready to talk. They want to talk about it. Case in point, the vigils that happened for the poor guy over the weekend were just absolutely incredible. I'm hoping the internet connection is there and this video actually plays. It'll play this many vigils. And maybe you're not a vigil going kind of person. I understand that. I'm probably not either. Take a guess where this one was for Charlie Kirk, though. Just take a guess. As they're chanting his name. Thousands of people gathered there, and I'll tell you where it is after. Thousands. You know where it was? You're thinking, oh boy, I don't know. His home state of Arizona was in, although a huge one was there. It was in Texas, one of the southern states, Tennessee, a Bible Belt state. That was Long Island, New York, in a park. Okay? Another massive vigil, probably until the official ones are there, that popped up was in Huntington Beach, California. Things are different now. People feel that, and you can't tell me that every single person at that vigil in Long Island, New York, was what they're calling a far-right extremist who followed the guy and is a MAGA conservative. No. Those are people that took time out of their busy weekend to show up to a vigil for somebody they never even met and probably don't even know about too much. But anybody that goes to a vigil like that is horrified by what happened to the guy. And trust me, you're just going to have to believe me when I tell you, just by talking to hundreds of people throughout a big section of the country this weekend, people are ready to talk about the reaction. And here's what I'm getting to in a long-winded kind of way. Nobody wants the reaction to what happened last week to ever happen again. It's horrifying. People are absolutely done with the extreme reaction to that stuff. And this is why I say they want to talk about it. And here's where you come in. Remember I said in the beginning there that you're probably, most likely, tuned into the news, current affairs, topical information more than most people. This is where you should jump into this conversation. Now, I had said that a lot of people chatter back and forth. The guy on the plane I was next to wanted to talk about the Charlie Kirk thing, the whole thing. What was up with that? What's going on with that? Absolutely. People on this boat I'm on right now, people at the airport, all kinds of cafes and public settings in New York City. This story is everywhere and they want to talk. Most people you run into don't really know too much about it. As an informed person, here's where you jump in. Jump into the conversation. I will tell you, I didn't start this conversation with any of these folks. They brought it up just in casual, and you find yourself in these conversations. Here's what I heard most of people who had thought he was a terrible person, right? Well, I think it was kind of divisive. Wasn't that guy kind of divisive, said some racist things? Here's where you jump in if you want to correct that. I said, well, I don't know. Did you hear him say those things, or did you hear somebody else say he was? 9 times out of 10, you say, no, I heard that from, my daughter or one of their friends or one of my buddies said that. I never actually heard it myself. You hear that so much. Here's why people are getting that information and why you should feel free to jump into the conversation because you know more than they do. The misinformation from the news about the guy, like they always do, of course, was all over the place. Here's a classic example, and I hope I can find this information for you. On Saturday, the New York Times, more on them in a second, their irrelevance, had to issue an apology for a horrific statement that they had said. Here's the correction. Correction was made on September 11th, 2025. An earlier version of this article described incorrectly an anti-Semitic statement that Charlie Kirk had made on an episode of his podcast. They had an article where they claimed this to happen without any proof, substantiation, anything. Knew that it was false and had to issue the correction. Now, here's how the game is played. How many people saw the original article with the New York Times, even though the failing New York Times? A lot. It was a lot of people. How many people saw that correction, that little tiny blurb in their online and printed version? Not a lot. And that's how they play the game, to disparage the guy. That's how they do it all the time. And here's the other thing you heard over the weekend that people aren't buying anymore. Well, that guy was, did you hear that? Did you hear that Charlie Kirk was actually, the shooter of Charlie Kirk was actually MAGA? He was one of the MAGA guys. He was a far right kind of guy. They tried to push that narrative through the media falsely, probably fed by political operatives, I guess. Who the hell knows? From Friday all the way to Saturday night into Sunday morning. But here's the great thing. It went nowhere. No one was believing that, especially when some substantiated reports came out that Charlie Kirk's shooter, the assassin, was living with a trans person, most likely, allegedly, in some cases reportedly in a relationship with that person. And on the bullet casings, the FBI has confirmed that wrote pro-trans attacking, like duck fascist or whatever the hell it was on the casings. Once people found out that information, yet nobody believes that anymore. They don't believe the lies. This is why I say people are ready to talk. They're ready to talk about what's really happening. And this is where it's up to you and me and everybody else to not push an agenda. You don't even have to start the conversation, but don't avoid the conversation. Now, again, I'm not talking about the freakazoids who maybe are in your office or, God forbid, in your family too, who are just have this visceral hate and the reaction. I'm celebrating that they killed Charlie Kirk. Not those people. This is a different story. I'm also avoiding them. Talking about normal people, which are 95% of the population. They may not have all the details. For their whole lives, they've been misdirected by a lying news media. You know more. You know the truth because you're an educated, informed person. Don't back away from the conversation anymore because that happens to so many of us these days, and I'm guilty of it too. Hear it in the background. You're just in line buying something at a convenience store, and you hear the conversation starting up, and you wanted to avoid that like the plague because you don't want to get involved even though you know the details anymore. When people want to have a civil conversation, don't back away from it anymore because they're ready to talk. Trust me on this one. They're ready to talk. Now, the good news on this, besides that piece of good news, was pretty wild with how many organizations, leagues that actually had a dedication to Charlie Kirk and felt their need to do it. I kept a little tally, and this was reported anyway. All but 4 home teams in the NFL yesterday had a moment of silence for him. Bunch of baseball stadiums did too. The guy that won the NASCAR race over the weekend, this is less surprising, I guess, said he did, they always interview him after the fact. He said he dedicated his win to Charlie Kirk. It should tell you the kind of impact that Charlie Kirk had, but now has. And I think his lasting legacy may be this conversation we're talking about. It's not only people are ready to talk, they want to talk. And this is a great thing, guys. It really is. And don't be afraid to jump into the conversation. You don't even have to argue with people. Let's leave it up to the politicians to take care of the argumentative part of it. Trump, in fact, already said, here's the clip here if I have this for you. He said the investigation is already underway on some of the political organizations that are funding this kind of violence. He said they're looking into it right now. Let's leave that stuff up to them. And for us normal people, even though you're a little bit more informed than the most normal people, don't be afraid to add into the conversation. There's never been a better time to talk, and they want to. Here was Trump. This is really loud. This is outside of Air Force One. But they asked him about looking into, maybe with RICO charges, who's funding the violence. And maybe it's on both sides. Who the hell knows?
Careful. When we attack people, we have to be careful.
You mentioned Charlie Kirk, sir. What organizations on the left you anticipate investigating? We talked about this last week.
Well, the problem is on the left. If you look at the problem is on the left. It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right. The problem we have is on the left. And when you look at the agitators, you look at the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left. That's not the right.
Do you plan on investigating?
We'll see. We'll be announcing. They're already under investigation. They're already under.
Okay, now in Trump's own way, of course, he's, bombastic, and he's going to say, the scum, the flag burning, and we may hate that too. Let's let them handle that in the investigations. Here's our job on the streets, actually in real life, with real people, normal people, Guys, I'm telling you, I'll just leave you with this. And I know this whole podcast has been a little bit different today because it's mostly personal experience. I'm just telling you, the hundreds of people I've run into over the weekend, cross-section of humanity, of the world, on a ship I'm on right now, people all over the world want to talk about this story and getting rid of this divide. Because the most important thing of all is we never wanted to divide us. We never wanted to be divided ourselves. But these political and media organizations did. And the great news is everybody is starting to realize it. Everybody. This is why I use that term normal. Because the extreme people, okay, and I'll give you examples on both. The people who celebrated disgustingly Charlie Kirk's assassination, and the other side, the people that said, it's over now, it's over. Oh, now the pushbacks, now you want civil war. Well, you got it, okay? Both of those examples are the extreme minority. All of us are right there in the middle. People want to talk. Add what you know, because you know more than they do. All right, this is a weird one. I get it, and late, and I apologize for that. I'll get my act together by tomorrow. But the Wicked Radio live stream podcast rolls on. It's not going to stop us. Thanks, you audio podcast listeners. I'll post this again. Literally, if the wind and the internet connection is with me, I'll get that going and post that in just a few minutes. And it lives on as a replay here on X and on YouTube and on Facebook. Even on Rumble these days, look for Wicked Radio with Bill Adams, and you'll find me. All right. Get into that conversation with people. I'm telling you, you'll find people today that want to talk in a common sense kind of way. It's a great thing. With all that said, thanks for finding me. Sorry I was late. I'll figure it out tomorrow. I'll talk to you tomorrow.